Hey guys, welcome to ED Technology. My name is Navjot Singh Jadeja, and in today's video, we are going to discuss on waterfall model in software engineering. As you all know, that software engineering is actually a structured form of software development, and different models play an important role in maintaining that structure. So waterfall model is one of the most fundamentals and one of the most basic models in software engineering. So as you can see it in the diagram, it's like the structure of a real waterfall in the nature. Here we have different phases. So each phase is completely done in order to begin the next phase. And that is why it is known as waterfall model. So we have 5 to 6 phases which make together the model. So the first phase is the requirements phase. Second phase is the design phase. The third phase is the implementation, then the testing, then deployment, and then the maintenance. So basically the requirement phase is where the gathering and understanding the requirement from the stakeholders and users are done. This is then later on using the requirement specification documents are specified in the form where the designers and the coders can understand them in a very clear, efficient way. Then once that requirements are finalized, once those requirements are fixed up, then we move on to the design phase. So basically design phase is where assigning responsibilities to the objects and also specifying detailed dynamics of their interaction is done. So basically in this phase we do the usage scenarios, we design the layouts. So basically the UI design is also discussed, and also the backend design, the databases, the tables are also taken into account. So once that particular phase is done, again as I said in the waterfall model, we complete a phase and then move on to the next phase. So once that particular phase of designing, as you can see here, is done, then we get into the coding part, which is also known as implementation phase. So here we code the designs into the programming languages. We implement all the requirements based, given by the stakeholders, by the users, or even specified by our software analyst who went and got the requirements from the users. Those requirements are converted using programming language into the code form. Once that is done, that phase is over. It is handed over to the testing team where individual classes, all the components are tested via unit testing. Then the whole system is integrated, and then again integration testing is performed, and then after that different sorts of testing such as black box testing, white box testing, etc. are performed as a part of the testing. Then once that testing is done and when we realize that this particular phase is over, then we start with the deployment phase, which is actually installation of the system at the user end, running the system with the users or the pilot batches landing into them. And then we find out the bugs, we fix them, and also we also take into account the maintenance part. So in future, whenever there is the bug fixing is required or adding the new features are required, so then we do that task in this particular phase. Basically waterfall model is a static flow model. What do I mean by that is that all the requirements in here are fixed up. So in general, if you are trying to understand, it's one of the very traditional model of software engineering. It's only used in certain scenarios because it is sequential in nature of execution. So it goes one step after the another. And as I mentioned earlier also, it finishes one phase before executing or even starting the next phase of the development, right? So when do we use like waterfall model? A lot of budding programmers, people in engineering, they might be thinking, if it is so traditional, when do we use it? Or is it even used in the market? Yes, it is used in the market when there is a simple software to be developed. We have a very precise and clear requirements which are laid out right at the starting of the project. Also taking into account, let's say we have a very small customer base, then we can take waterfall model, and we have to make sure that this kind of model is only used when we do not have flexibility demanded in terms of requirements. So what do I mean by that? So in case there are requirements which are likely to change over a period of development or very soon in the near future, then you should not be going with waterfall model. So there are multiple models for those kind of flexible requirements. We will be discussing them in the future videos. Also, there is a complete paradigm which is known as agile, where all the sorts of requirement can be taken into account, but that is for the later part of the discussion. So when do we use the waterfall? When the requirements are clear, precise, and a very small customer base, right? And also, as I said, there are a lot of limitations for waterfall model in the current scenario. Like it will not work where flexibility is required. So there is no new changes accommodation possible in the waterfall model. Also, because each of the phase takes enough time to complete and then the next phase starts, so there is no parallel working scenario like in the other models. So it might take comparatively longer delivery time, right? So that's what the basic waterfall model is. In the further videos, as I said, we will be discussing other models and also have a comparative analysis on which scenario to use which model.